My name is
Jenny.
David.
Lila.
Laurel.
Jen.
Lisa.
Dino.
Hari.
Kyle.
I was a
Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witness.
FLDS.
In the Amish church.
The chosen people.
I was a Scientologist.
I grew up a Mooney, a member of the Unification Church.
2x2.
And I am
Shunned.
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 Hi, my name is Sam. I'm 31. I was a Jehovah's Witness, and I am shunned.
All right, Sam. So how'd you come to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses in the first place?
My paternal grandmother was a witness, and so when my mom got with my dad, she started witnessing to her. She didn't want anything to do with it. My mom was a devout Catholic, and so while she was pregnant with me, my father got shot, and he's like, God, if I survive this, I'll come back to you, I'll serve you, whatever. And so my mom she was a very shy woman. So sisters started coming to the house while she was pregnant with me, and she was so shy. This is from what I remember her telling me, like, she was really shy, so she was too embarrassed to tell them to go away. So she just let them keep coming to the house. And so then her grandmother died, and this was a little bit after I was born, and that was enough because she had a huge fear of the dead and hell. And so to hear, she was very, very close to her grandmother. So to hear them say, hey, there's no hell and there are no ghosts, and there's no ghosts that can come and get you, and the, paradise and all the mumbo jumbo that we all know. And so that was enough to kind of capture her attention during a huge time of grief and turmoil. And so I was basically born into it. Right after I was born is when she took it on. So was raised in it, basically.
It really strikes me that a person who can't say no is a person ripe for the picking.
Yep.
For Jehovah's Witnesses. And she couldn't tell them, no, don't come back. And
Yep.
so they kept coming. And then here's a vulnerable point in time in her life. Very sad time where she lost somebody who she cared about, obviously.
And she was very lonely at the time. She had no family around her. My dad was in the hospital. She had my older sister who was 6 at the time. And so they came at a time where she was very susceptible. And this is a woman that can't really think for herself. She does need outside guidance in a way. So yeah, they found a target and they got it.
Wow. Okay, so that's kind of do you know the origin as far as the paternal grandmother? Do you know where it came from for her?
I'm actually not sure. This woman was my goddess in life. She was amazing. She wasn't a hardcore. She was just very like, make Jehovah happy. She would sit and read me Bible stories. My mom worked a lot. She was the main breadwinner. My father he left when I was 6. It was a good thing he left, but she stuck around, and she was the one that really started putting the love for Jehovah in my heart. And she'd come once a year for like 4 months to help take care of me during summer until she couldn't travel anymore. But I don't know her history because I was 15 when she passed away, and it didn't dawn on me at the time to ask her, but
okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's family lore, there's the story of how grandma got the truth or whatever,
Yeah.
and then it gets passed down.
They were on my dad's side. They were the only witnesses. So my dad's brother or half brother was a hardcore witness. And so I spent more time with them since they lived near us, and it was always like military like. Bible reading, meeting, blah, 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 service. You couldn't stray at all because you wanted to stay in their favor. It was very much like, show that you're doing good or else they'll take their attention and you don't want to be left with without their attention. So it was a pretty big thing on that side.
Okay. So so you then being raised in it was really all you knew. So what was the worldview that it gave you as a kid growing up?
Um, because home life from like whatever time I can remember up to the point that my sister left home, it was very violent, very abusive. So my view of just having Jehovah is like, Jehovah, either take my life or just help my mom and I survive this. It was always just constant prayer or, you know, thinking like Jehovah's a savior, so come and save us, you know? So it was a constant survival mode of pleading. It was always a lot of pleading, like, make it better, please. Um,
So were
but
you so wrapped up? So did you have a view of the outside world yourself, or were you so wrapped up in I just got to survive day to day
yeah,
that really you didn't have time to think about the world outside?
definitely from so my dad was very violent to my mother and my sister, and there was often times where I laugh about it now because I think it's funny where because after he got shot, I had mentioned that he only spent 2 years trying to be a good witness before he went back to his ways, and so he was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and so a lot of times I remember, having to hide under the bed with everyone, and he'd just come in and just break everything in the house. I can remember my mom's screams from being hit. My sister likes to say, like, "He never hit you because I'd get in the way," but that created resentment in my sister to become my main abuser. So, from, kicking and dragging me by my hair. I'm still scared of thunder because anytime there was, like, lightning and thunder, she'd lock me outside, and, like, I'd soil my pants, and then she'd tell my mom, like, she peed her pants, and then my mom comes in, and so I just got an ass whooping in my life and another ass whooping right after, and then there was you know, I think my mom's nerves were so shot. She was a main breadwinner, so she's working 12, 14 hours a day. She's coming home. You're going to want to take all that anger on someone. So, I'd get that end of the, receiving end, and then I'd get thrown into a dark closet for hours at a time. So, yeah, I was constantly like, what can I do to be the perfect child? Okay, don't say anything, don't show any like discontent. Um, And there was one time where I knew what was coming, and I knew I was gonna get hit and thrown in, so I just booked it to the closet and locked myself in there, and I was in there for hours until I knocked on the door, and I'm like, "Can I come out?" And they started laughing at me, like, "We didn't even know you were in there." Like, I was so programmed to be like, pants down, ready for a belt or whatever thing she's using, and then stay in the closet for hours. And so growing up, it was just what can I do? Like, I'd clean my sister's room just to try to get her, on the good side, and just be as quiet as possible. Don't move. Meetings were very much like, if I started drawing, I'd get taken to the bathroom and get spanked. Like, you couldn't move. So I'm just there trying, being a kid, and it's either a pinch, or if I fell asleep, a pinch, or I get spanked at home. And anytime we got home from the kingdom, I'm like, was I good today? Was I good? So it was constant, like, Jehovah, please let today be a day where I'm not getting hit. That was my worldview.
And it sounds like, well, first of all, I'm very sorry. That's horrible. But it sounds like it's also not just getting hit, but so hitting you was not enough. getting creative and hitting you with other objects was not enough, but we also need to throw you in a closet?
We had a walk-in closet. We lived in a little single wide trailer, and um, after my dad had left, um, it was my sister, my mom, and I. My sister was the demon herself. She obviously had a lot of trauma, a lot of anger she needed to get out on me, and she kind of, I feel like she had a somewhat of resentment because my mom and I were somehow closer. Not my fault, but if you're fighting with mom all the time and you guys are beating each other up, that's going to cause a bit of a rift. So I feel like she enjoyed seeing my mom go off, or else why would she tell her, knowing how my mom would react, right?
Oh, sure.
So throwing me in the closet, I think to my mom was like timeout. The thing is, like, they'd forget, right? And so spending those many years and that much time in a dark closet started causing me to have psychosis at a young age. And so by the time I was, I think, 7, my mom was already taking me to like psychiatrists and stuff. And like my daughter won't talk a lot. My daughter is sad all the time. Why?
Oh, so
Why do you think?
so something that has come up, that has been something that I guess I didn't really realize was a thing, but I found out has been more of a thing than I thought. Coming that comes up in my coaching practice is that there are individuals who just did not speak for long periods of time because it was never safe to speak. Were you a person that just didn't speak? Did you,
um,
or, or,
it's
or were you just quiet and tried not? Because it sounds like you're trying not to be seen, right? It's not to your benefit to stand out or be seen. So did you just go within and really stop talking?
I wasn't mute, but I learned to read the room pretty young. The problem is that I was only quiet when it was just my mom and my sister, because I didn't feel safe bringing attention, because anything I did was annoying, right?
Right.
Anything I would do would warrant, like, I'm gonna slap you now because I feel like it, right? Um, but when there was other people there, I was so hyperactive because I was so like, someone just give me some love or attention. I know this now as an adult. I didn't realize this as a kid, but
Oh, sure.
the weird thing is that my mom was very over coddling, to the point where when I did speak, because I didn't speak often, I spoke like a baby up until, like, very childish, very, I don't know what the word would be in English, but it really hindered my ability to have conversations. I see I my niece started talking very conversationally at like 2. You could have a conversation. You cannot do that with me. It was very like like very just, obviously she's not spoken to that often, and because my mom was she would baby talk me till I was what, 12, 11. I would get embarrassed because people would make fun of me for that. And so it wasn't until my mom remarried to to a brother where he stopped the hitting, because he's like, your daughter's 13, she can understand words. He would start sitting down with me and speaking to me like an adult. It was the first time someone was actually interested in what I had to say, because all I had had before then was my mom calling all the elders all the time, like, for anything that would happen. Like, my daughter's so depressed, come talk to her. and they come and all they know about you is like you're a little bit dumb. Like, I'm gonna talk to you like you're a little baby, and you know. So yeah, I think I wouldn't talk at home, but I was super hyperactive when other people were around, but not in a good way because I was so hindered, and that those opportunities were just like, I need someone, like anyone, just I just remember being so like, people, like someone don't that won't hit me, just love
Sure.
me.
Oh,
It's,
yes, you're holding it in, and you've got to be bursting inside, wanting to
well,
talk to
it's so
somebody.
when I say everything from when I was born was so gaslighty because those were the first instances of you're so annoying, grow up, stop talking like that. But I'm like, I only talk like this because this is how understanding child development now and speaking to a kid like I am speaking now is so helpful for them to grow up and be able to have proper conversations and have critical thinking skills. When you are baby talking your kid up until she's like 12, what are you expecting her to be able to do with that? That's all she knows. And she's only going to learn when she finally goes to school with older kids, and she's going to get bullied relentlessly, and that's going to be the thing that shapes her up, I guess.
Well, it all depends on your goal as a parent, right? Is your goal to teach a child, to help a child to become their own individual self, the best version of themselves, so that they can fly and be free? Or are you trying to keep a kid small, make sure they never grow up, and keep control of them forever?
That was definitely my mom. I was her. She would tell me, if it wasn't for you being born, I wouldn't have been able to make it. I wouldn't have been able to survive. I'm like, how is that? You really let me have it growing up.
Also, that's a lot of pressure on a kid. Like, you're responsible for her life
She
in some
made
way.
it a point to always say, like, "You're never leaving me. You're always gonna be my baby." Like, it gets cute, so, like, once it's said in those instances where your mom doesn't wanna teach you credit, your mom doesn't wanna teach you useful life skills because she's always gonna be the one to wanna make your doctor's visits, wanna do this, wanna do that, and hold that over your head, like, "You need me. You need me, you're never leaving me. You're never gonna go anywhere. You're always gonna stay."
Infantilizing.
My whole and that really set in stone my path through the witness journey, for sure. I was infantilized every step of the way.
Well, I mean, that's what the cult does too, right? Jehovah's Witnesses, they infantilize people. I think coming up soon, they're going to study at their, I don't know, one of their meetings, some children's book that they created, because infantilizing grown people is a way to shut their brain off. They don't have to think anymore. They don't have to use their own brains. They don't have to use critical thinking skills. You just numb out and accept whatever is given to you, and you stay
Well, it used to be where you would actually go in depth into the Bible and really pick it apart, and it was studious, and you actually felt you were learning something. Now, even the way governing body talks on those videos, on broadcasts, and the Watchtower, how it's worded, everything is so first grade on how they talk to people. And so that evolution, I was still there when they were making it so simple it's just like, why would I talk to people like this? I worked so hard to get out of that, baby talk. This is what it feels like. This is how it feels like they used to talk to me. Like, do you know what Jehovah makes? Blah 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 blah. Like, do you know more vocabulary? It's yeah.
well, Caleb and Sophia. I don't think Caleb and Sophia are for the kids. I think that's for the adults. It's the adults that I see get excited about Caleb and Sophia. It's the
Crazy.
adults that you see sticking their head through the
I
cutouts.
was gonna say the cutouts. Are you
Mhm.
kidding me? Is this
It's adults. It's not
Disneyland? That is
kids.
insane. That's insane.
It's the adults.
And then, like, romanticizing the protests or, you know, the Holocaust. They have those stick signs, like, you take photos in Bethel with, you know, "We're protesting," or you have the boards, the signs in front of you. They let you wear it and take a photo with the background. It's so, like, they're not in reality anymore. It's very much an amusement park in there.
Yeah, amusements off the backs of all the people who were hurt in
Yep.
those instances. Ugh.
Yeah,
They do
yeah.
something for like I knew they
They
had like
have
the
a
sandwich wars.
Holocaust.
Yeah, what do they do for the Holocaust?
They have, a spotlight,
Yeah.
and it makes it look like there's bars, so
Okay.
someone can sit under it and feel like what it just the light shining down as if
Ooh.
you're behind bars, or they'll shine a light to show you, like, the small space that they were in or whatever, and then the next, like, display over is, like, the phonogram and a microphone and bikes, like how witnesses used to witness back. It's looking back at it now, and I've gone through photos. It's so a little ridiculous
Oh, it is. It
because there's
is.
so much lies within that now. Just, you know, they have pictures of Judge Rutherford. And like, if y'all even knew what this guy was about, and then they have uh, you know, Charles Russell, and I'm like, this dude created this shit from pyramidology and the occult and everything I know now, looking back, I was like, I really traveled. I really wanted to work there. I really wanted to be like, hey, look at our co-founders or whatever.
That's crazy. I knew well, I don't know if you know this or if the listener does, but and you can look it up. I mean, it's there's evidence of it, but I don't know, sometime in the last was it maybe the last 20 years, funds were made available. Um, I don't know how they were couched, if it was some sort of reparations or whatever it was, but if your family had been involved in the Holocaust and you had suffered losses, there was some sort of monies being made available that you could apply for. And there's evidence of Watchtower actually applied for this money and tried to get it and was basically like, hey, you know, guys, it's probably going to be kind of hard because it's been some time to figure out individual families that were Jehovah's Witnesses that were affected by this. So we were thinking that maybe you could just kind of give us some of that money. And then, of course, we'd use it to build some sort of museum to try to make it look like the Holocaust was all about us and not about everybody else. And we would use that, you know, as part of our propaganda. And I don't think they were given any of the money, but the fact that they would even apply
Let's
is
make money
just
off of the people we tricked.
so over the top. They're just so disgusting. But anyway, I didn't know if you knew about that. And I don't because we were
No,
on the
but
same.
I'm not shocked. I wouldn't put it past them because they'll
It's
make
wild.
money off of anything and anyone
Yeah, no,
and just
it's
say, "We're built we prayed to Jehovah and he let us know, yes, it's a good idea to invest all your hardworking money into a building for movies."
yes, yes. It's
I'm sure you will all love it because we're definitely not what's it called?
televangelists.
Televangelists or whatever.
Yes.
Bruh.
um I mean, it is interesting, you know, when you look back at that life. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I grew up just because we're on that topic, the Holocaust and such. Like they really used that to instill a lot of fear in us. So, like for you, you had a lot of fear at home because home was so violent. But then you go to the Kingdom Hall and you're also getting hit with fear, aren't you?
That those instances always stuck with me because they talked about Armageddon so much, and preparing, and we don't know, you know, we see it now more with all the videos, but they talked about it a lot, especially with that Apocalypse book. or Revelations was very, very impactful for me as a kid because the images, I mean, even my book of Bible stories, like, what would happen if you don't listen to Jehovah? And my mom, all the time, anytime she dropped me off at school, remember, Jehovah's watching. Remember, Jehovah's watching. And so it was always like, so what made it worse is when since my mom was always working, she was always either leaving me with on after school programs till like 7 at night, and or with random brothers and sisters, and in those instances something would always end up happening. So when I was around 7, I was staying with my friend, her family, and she had found a porn magazine somewhere in there, and that was the first instance of me finding or seeing something like that. And so that was the beginning of a very, early sexual, uh how would you describe that? Like, I learned about that way too early on, right?
Mm.
And then from there, I was sexually, you know, assaulted multiple times from first grade through other people, and I tried bringing it up to my mom, but it didn't really, like, register, so nothing ever happened. But all of these outcomes and situations that happened really instilled hardcore guilt as a kid, and by the time I was, like I said earlier, from by the time I was like 7, I was already on depression medication and anxiety medication, and I was just like, how does a kid understand all of that? And then it created a sort of addiction as I grew up and got into my teenage years, into like a porn addiction. So the guilt was so intense, so the fear just elevated because I'm like, I don't want to watch this, but now my brain, your brain as a kid is a sponge. Like, I didn't understand what I was even watching, but there was a time where my mom's boss caught me, and he kind of made it a joke. And so it was like, I need help. No one's helping me. But my mom keeps passing me to elders and telling them to help me or whatever. And so it was always judgmental. So when that happens, now you have these elders you grew up with viewing you in a certain way. So now they're coming with judging eyes. So now you're just this broken kid because everyone knows your business. So now you're in the no one knew, like, specifically on the porn thing, no one knew, but they just knew my anxieties, my depression. Everyone knew if I had a panic attack. Everyone knew if I was on a different my mom would tell everybody, everyone. And she kind of liked this went on until I, like, left. She would tell everyone everything. She loved oh, your daughter, your poor daughter. We prayed to Jehovah that she gets better, whatever.
So she
But
got attention for it.
she got attention from it. But it instilled so much guilt, and I think that really was my drive to do as good as I could for Jehovah. It was just
Well,
so much fear all the time, like, Jehovah's watching, so it's like you can't stop, but Jehovah's watching, and it was a constant, "I'm so sorry, Jehovah, what can I do?" It was a lot of, like, attempts at my life, just, like, how do I stop myself?
well,
I'm not
shame is
getting any
addiction
help.
fuel, and you're being shamed
Oh,
for this. It's just gonna make it bigger.
it was
And
crazy because no one knew, and one of the talks was about pornography, and I felt like
uh,
Jehovah knows. Jehovah knows, and Jehovah told that elder, and he's speaking to me right now. Yeah.
and I think that so your mom was telling elders that you were having problems with pornography.
That only happened once. I think at some point I don't remember exactly. I think I convinced her, like, I don't like, that was a problem in the past, right? She would always use elders to come and talk to me. Like, I think I told you once she brought an elder, and it was a specific elder I grew up with. So this elder from then on was, you can tell, like, was so judgy of me. Anytime he came back, he was an idolized elder. Like, everyone wanted to be around this elder. So you get this haughty elder coming in and being like, "You want to be vegan? That's not okay. Jehovah didn't make us that way." Or, "You're cutting yourself? That's not okay. You should be ashamed of yourself." Like, let me read you all the scriptures that tell you, like, your body's a temple or whatever shit that he came up with. Um, so it was always a fear of, don't tell mom. Like, I stopped telling my mom anything because it meant elder's gonna come, because she can't talk to me and she can't just dive in to what's really going on. At some point, she got me a therapist. It wasn't really working because, they don't know having this religion is just a whole other ball game, right?
Yep, they don't know the dynamic that you're going through, and
No,
they can't address it,
no,
and you
but it
can't
was
leave that dynamic, so
no. And how do I explain that as a kid? Like, I'm already just so, like, just don't say anything, hide everything, fear, and try to make it through.
yeah, I was thinking that the confidential people that they're sending you to at times too, young Jehovah's Witnesses are being sent to men to tell them, I struggle with pornography, I'm struggling with masturbation, or I was sexually assaulted in some way or whatever. And I mean, not only are they not equipped to handle those things, but also, as we know and have found, as more light has been shown on it, there's a lot of predators in the
Yeah.
organization. And it's just like, I'm just thinking it like you being in the position you had been in, growing up with the mom who couldn't say no. You're struggling in these ways and you're being sent to men as a girl to talk about sexual matters that are not their business, and just how that could set up, and especially she's telling the whole congregation things. My God, you're being set up, for predators to find prey.
The
It's charm in
worst
the
part
water.
the worst part is my mom would force me to say hi to everyone. She would
Mm,
give him a hug, give him a kiss, say hello. Like,
oh God.
if a brother was like, "You're not gonna give me a hug," like, I go by Sam, but, my name's Stephanie's like, "Stephanie, go." That I can't stand to hear my name because it was obedience. That name meant obedience. You have to obey me. Go give him a hug. Go say hi. Go give him a kiss. Don't be rude. So I'm very, very much about, like, don't force your kids if to say hi. If they don't want to say, they don't have to say hi. They don't have to give anyone a hug. Like, let them feel in their body what they're comfortable in, because you're just teaching them that they can't say no.
Yep.
And so it's another instance of gaslighting of, like, well, just say no, or, you're teaching me not to have any boundaries whatsoever. That anything I do, everyone else must know. And so obviously you're setting me up to have a life where I get, you know, taken advantage of. And I'm just people pleasing all the time.
Right. Don't trust your own thoughts and your own
No,
feelings
not at
as
all.
a
Yeah,
child.
yeah, no,
That's so dangerous.
yeah.
Um, were you finding, so at the Kingdom Hall, sad it sounds like your mom was bringing in a lot of personal issues into all of it, but were you finding, how did you feel, or were you all the family, were you at the meetings, were you participating in things, were you uh s- young JW superstar, like giving talks and stuff, like were you all super involved in it, and I know you talked about the fear, like were you connecting to it in some way as an escape?
It's interesting because although I had a lot of fear, I had the extreme urge of still wanting to please Jehovah.
People
So
pleasing.
back in the day, governing body wasn't really involved. They were anonymous, right? So your I'm gonna call them idols because that's I feel elders in the congregation I grew up in. It was a Spanish congregation. There is a culture difference between English and Spanish. So in the Spanish
Yep.
congregation I grew up in, these elders were viewed as, "Oh, brother so and so. Oh, like whatever you need, like I will kiss the fucking ground you walk on," right? Um it was like I want to be like them. I want to be like their wives. I want to be so spiritual. So, thing is when my mom got married, I was 13, and during that time he moved me congregations, he moved me schools, he moved us houses, like he moved just complete I lost my friends, lost like whole another ball game. So I had nothing and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm 13, I need to get baptized." My mom's like, "You can wait," which is interesting. She didn't want me because my sister had gotten baptized early and she just fucked it all up too. Because like obviously we're all traumatized, so we're gonna make mistakes in life. And so my sister was out of the picture. She was disfellowship, and my mom didn't want me ending up like that. But I'm like, I want to serve Jehovah. I was so like, I want to serve Jehovah. I'm going to get baptized and you can't stop me. And the elders were like, you can't stop her. She's going to get baptized. Got baptized. And I thought I would come out like someone new because they talk about being reborn, or I really thought getting baptized would cleanse me of those thoughts and those feelings. And I really was so let down because I felt the same. And I felt maybe it's me. Oh my God, like something's wrong with me. It didn't work because I still have these thoughts. What's wrong with me? I remember just crying at night because people are going to be happy for you. Like, you're baptized, like, congratulations. Like, maybe my mom was right. Maybe I should have waited. Maybe it wasn't the right time. Um, so from then on, I made it like such an intense like goal. Like I want to be a pioneer. I'm not, I'm gonna just serve Jehovah. And so when I turned 17, I graduated and I was on heavy medication. So it was like sleepy and then hyperactive and all these things. And I was still going through um, the hallucinations and stuff, but I was trying to keep that on a download. Like it wasn't as bad yet, but I got a job at a law office as a receptionist first, and then I got to become a legal assistant and then worked as a paralegal. And I worked there for 6 years. And then I didn't go to college because, they don't encourage college. I lost a scholarship. I was offered a music scholarship. Didn't get to take that because we don't get to go to school for that, right?
Can I
Um
ask, how'd you get a music scholarship in the first place?
Class, like they gave me all I had to do was go and play in front of um the man, I don't even remember what they're called,
What
but
did you play, or what was your
I played
musical
the
talent?
saxophone. Yeah, I played the saxophone for 4 years. Our band teacher was like, "Go to this and you can receive a scholarship and blah blah blah," right? And so um I my mom didn't let me go. I could have easily just even if it wasn't for music, I could have used that for something, right? And I looked out on it. I didn't I get to do it. And so instead, I'm like, well, I'm gonna pioneer, and I'm gonna be I was the youngest pioneer at the new house we moved. They were waiting for me to graduate to move to like the mountain region of San Diego. So we
Hmm.
moved to Alpine, right? El Cajon Alpine. And
Can I ask, what were you graduating from? Like, were you in regular school,
no,
or were
high
you
school. They were just waiting for me to graduate high school so we can finally move.
so you went to real you
Yeah,
went to
I was
public
in
school?
actual yeah, public school. I was in
Oh,
public
okay. Because the way I'm hearing this, I was thinking they might have homeschooled you to rush you through so you could just,
That's a yeah, I mean, I rambled on and I skipped a few things.
that's okay.
Um, Middle school was terrible. It was such a
Middle school's
bully
terrible for
central.
everybody.
Oh my god. High school was when I started really learning about myself, and it was a time where I had a lot of questions because I'm like, why are my high school friends so much more inclined to get to know me and love me and not hurt me? And witness friends are so like hard to get to know because the spiritual kids were the cool kids, right? No one got to just enter that group, but you can't hang out with these kids because they're not as spiritual. And then if you're not as spiritual, you get marked and they tell you you're a bad influence. And it was a time where I embarrassed myself all the time trying to get the attention of these people I wanted to be friends with. It was, I was so weird. I was so weird. I didn't know how to have conversations, still don't, but it was so like trying to prove myself like I can be like guys, like I want to go to service with you. I just needed something to connect with him and I couldn't, right? Because I had moved so many times already that these people already had those um those links. They had grown up together.
Yeah, they had roots together. You
They had roots
you kept
together.
getting uprooted. So
Yep.
am I understanding correctly? So you're obviously not connecting in your house because your house isn't a safe place.
And I when my mom got remarried, he had kids and they would also be fucking terrible to me up until we got older that we were able to finally have good relationships, but they were resenting their parents split and that I just would end up getting like the brunt of everything. I'm like, dude, I want to be left alone. I didn't tell, your parents thing is not my fault. You guys to this point have been so spoiled and coddled and have had everything handed to you to the point where they couldn't even get up to get a glass of water. Their dad would serve them everything that they needed. I grew up having to work for everything.
And you
Nothing.
still weren't gonna get it.
No, to the point where I got my first job at 17. That's it. Like, you're never getting anything else from me, right? Which is fine, but
Right, but I'm just seeing though that if how could you ever it's got to be hard to feel safe in relationships because when you come from an environment where your parental relationship was not good and in your original 1.0 version of the family, 2.0 now stepdad, other kids can't connect or fit in there because everyone here is coming from trauma and pain at all times. Um, at the Kingdom Hall, you're not in one of the cool families or the upper echelon families, so you're not fitting in there. And then at school, your mom has held you back to a point where you're probably extra awkward. So, because you're being baby talked to you're 12. So, how are you going to fit in there? So it just really creates Sam on an island by yourself, constantly trying to fit in somewhere, but no one has ever shown you how, and everyone has done everything in their power to keep you from fitting in.
yeah, and there was a lot of taunting. I will say it took my stepdad and I about 2 years to finally, like like, mesh, but I will say he became my best friend. He
Hmm,
was I think because his kids were so uninterested in him, and I was always yearning for someone to talk to me like a normal person.
sure.
He did become a pillar in my life that I can come to, and I could trust him, and he would definitely not like my mom. My mom was a huge gossiper. She could be like, "No, I wasn't." She was a huge gossiper, a narcissist to the T, right? She was loving and bubbly to everyone else and kept their secrets, right? But me, no.
Well, she owned you. You were property.
Yeah, I was property. I did not get that respect. I
Right.
had got no privacy either. She could just come in anyways. my stepdad really tried to teach her boundaries, and he was very much someone that I felt really listened to me, and like he was someone who cried when I got my period for the first time. He was someone who is very in touch with his own emotions and did the work because he was an alcoholic in his past life. He double A meetings, he was disfellowshipped at one point when he was younger. So he understood. He didn't know my whole story. A lot of this, if they hear this, they're gonna be very like, oh shit, like we didn't know all of that, right? But he was someone that I could laugh with genuinely and really taught me what a father was like. So I will always be grateful to him. Now everything I know now, I'm like, how can you be an elder knowing all these things and not believe any of like the CSA cases or see any. He's very much like, even if governing body is wrong, we are here to serve Jehovah and nothing will keep me from that. Say this is not the truth, this is what works for my lifestyle, and this is what I will continue to do. Respect that. Because, I mean, if
But but it sounds like that became his the addiction that he went to instead of alcoholism. He's addicted to this belief system, and it's everything to him. Ultimately, he would give up kids or whatever for it. It kind of has control of him, which is sad because it sounds like he's done some work on himself over the
yeah.
years, and he had some emotional intelligence, but there's still a big blind spot.
And that's the sad part. I was definitely ended up being closer to him. I would go to him to with things that I could never go to my mom with. He is an upstanding, very um honest and helpful person. For someone to take on someone else's family and raise them and provide for them while providing for the other family and working his ass off. And he is someone that is very respected in the community. Um, and the only thing is he's tried reaching out, but he doesn't know how to not talk. Like both of them don't know how to be able to have a normal relationship without religion or the cult involved. And I gave them those boundaries and they couldn't uphold them, so I shunned them in return. Well, not really, because they can't talk to me anyway, but it's like you're blocked because you all you do is keep sending me articles and stuff. But I
Yeah,
just
it's not a
want
real
that,
relationship
like
at that.
he was a very healing person to have in my life. It's just too bad that this other looming thing was too strong and overcame that, like overrode whatever he was able to stabilize, right? So for a time I had some stability,
I'm
but
glad you
yeah,
had somebody in your life.
yeah.
It's
He was taunting though, like he wouldn't believe me when his kids were, because it's his kids, right? And they would lie, or they'd like, I once hugged his daughter and then she went running to him saying that I like squeezed her too hard and it hurt her bones, and he like went off. I'm like, okay, like sure, fine, whatever. Um yeah, I don't know where I was, but it was an
well, that's yeah. Also, you may have squeezed hard because you just needed a hug.
I really tried. I understood their pain, which is the shitty part, is that I really like, for my stepbrother, I remember I'd buy him things, the people pleasing thing. Let me at least just love bomb you so you can relax and understand I'm
Trying
not a
to earn
threat,
the yeah.
right? Like I will pay for your amusement park thing and we'll go. Like I was really trying to befriend them. I was very heavy set growing up, so they'd call me big fat weirdo. They laugh at me like they're like, you can hide a fucking sandwich under your chin, like all these relentless things, and it's so isolating. So you really start to it really pushes you to just focus on your Bible studies and like Jehovah. Jehovah is my only like he's the only one that can get me through this. I
And
have
thus the
no other way.
escape, right? Then it becomes the addiction because it becomes the only relationship, or you romanticize Jehovah to the point where it's almost like a parasocial relationship where people think they know Taylor Swift and they think they know everything about her, and she's
Yeah,
just she's you don't know her. You know her
yeah.
music, and she has. I'm sure you can see some qualities, but you don't know her like you think you know
I don't
her.
like that lady. That's a cult. That's a cult.
Sure, it can get culty like anything else,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you know, with Jehovah, I think for a lot of kids who are in these abusive situations, they almost form a parasocial relationship. It's like they start putting Jehovah on a pedestal and idolizing him in a way, and they don't even know what they're talking about. They've just been told that Jehovah will fix things for you and Jehovah will bless you and Jehovah will save you. And when you need saving because you're in this horrible situation, suddenly that starts to make a lot of sense. You
yeah,
have no other way out.
yeah. Uh, so I graduate. I start working. Instantly, I become a pioneer. It was the first time I ever got like affirmation of a good job. Like, we're so proud of you. Like all the things I had been wanting to hear for so long, and then making friends with other pioneers, like all the things I had ever wanted. I'm like, Jehovah's blessing me because I'm doing what he wants. So I start obsessing over be- like pioneering in service. So I'm, I go to pioneer meetings and pioneer school, and I get to go up on stage, and like I memorized my whole part, and I had forgotten my cards, and I was so proud of myself because I don't do that. I'm terrified of like speaking in the microphone and giving comments, and I'd always get in trouble for not, and I'd get like I would get punished for not commenting. So now it was like an anxiety of like I have to be out there. I have to show that I'm that spiritual sister, and and this will make Jehovah so happy for me and make everything peaceful, cuz I think at the end of the day I was just searching for peace and for people to be proud of me, right?
Well, sure.
So I would wake up at 5 in the morning, take the trolley. On my way to work, I would be preaching. And then during my break time, I would go in the city and preach. And then on my way back home, I would be preaching. So I designed my life, and I learned that any type of interaction with a worldly person, it was how can I preach to you? So it really messed up my ability to have normal conversations without being schemy and trying to be like, how can I make this conversation become one of a Bible study? Because in middle school, I was having Bible studies. In high school, I'd be the one like, I don't agree with that in science. Like, I don't believe with the Big Bang. I really do believe that. And then I'd give the teachers watchtowers, and I was the Bible girl. Do you know how embarrassing it is to look back on that? I mean, like, I couldn't just enjoy high school. It was already like senior year. I got a boyfriend. I was so like 3 weeks after I broke up with him because it's like, I can't, like, Jehovah's watching. I can't do that. You're a different religion. But it
Well, I
was,
mean, Sam, I think a lot of us, I mean, yeah, it is cringy to look back at, but we were just doing the best we could with the tools we had and opportunities. But at the same time, I get it. It
yeah,
is cringy. I look back at who I once was too, and oh my God, some of the conversations, even at workplaces and stuff, standing on a factory line, fixing computers back then, and the conversations that would come up, and people, I'd have 12 people going at me about the Bible, right? And I was just standing up for the dumbest stuff. And I look back now and it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I really went to bat for that like I did.
yeah,
It's pretty awful, some of the conversations that were had.
Yeah, no.
But again, we thought we were doing the right thing, right? And we were all a bunch of abused kids trying to earn love from something, whether it's from Jehovah or from mom and dad or whoever. Like, can I do something that pleases anybody so that I have worth?
And then you bring that to the kingdom, how you tell like an elder, like, "Hey, I started a Bible study with this blah blah blah," and then I said that in science class, like blah blah blah, and then they want you to share it with the congregation. It's like, look at our youth, aren't they doing so? Aren't we so proud of them? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, well, then you get on the Circuit Assembly or something, right? Because, oh, Sam had the best experience and she's the best example of a young person. Yes. If you want to tell your story on the podcast, buy merch, or get more information, go to shunnedpodcast.com.
I chased that because to me it was Jehovah's blessing me.
Of course.
And during that time, I was still having that issue with that addiction. So anytime I'd fall in again, because I worked for I made it a point to be like, okay, don't go 2 weeks, go, whatever. If I fell, I think the longest time was a year, and I was so proud of myself. And then I fell into it, and it would just skyrocket me into like, do better, do something, go help a sister, go, do whatever you can to show Jehovah like you are sincerely regretful. And
Double down.
yeah. And so obviously with witnesses, there's a lot of sexual repression. And so that builds, especially for a young girl that was introduced to this very, very young, doesn't understand it yet. So I'm a pioneer from like 18 to 21. And at 20, I met my first like serious boyfriend. He wasn't baptized. Huge problem. He got baptized only to date me. We argued a lot. He was very controlling, which is what I used to like. We couldn't go anywhere without him not holding my hand. I wasn't allowed to talk to my friends. If I spoke up and I was funny, it was a problem. So that was the first instance of a first oh shit, not great relationship. At this point, I was also struggling with like feelings towards other women and attraction to women. And so the only kind of reason I wasn't really interested in dating anyone because I was having so much fun with pioneering, but I was also struggling with those emotions of why am I attracted to women? Why am I having these relationships with girlfriends? And like there wasn't that conversation back then. So I started dating this guy and he would get really aggressive. And so I learned the only way to like calm him down was to be intimate. And so that eventually got us in trouble. But because I broke up with him, he went and told the elders after we had agreed, like, we're both going to go to the elders. He was really, really pissed off that I broke up with him. So he went to the elders. And so it made it look like I was trying to hide it. And I remember being in that back room with 3 elders and them asking me the most horrendous questions. Did you guys try anal? I don't know what that is. Did you perform oral? Like what? Like, why are you asking me such specific questions? Was there any forceful actions? Like, did he rape you? I think I've blocked out a lot because it was so in depth, the questions that they were asking and things I didn't really understand. Because 'cause even with, like, the videos I'd watched growing up, it wasn't anything like that, right? So I didn't know what that some of those words meant, even at 20, right? Or
Oh,
21.
sure. Yeah, you don't have any
So
context there.
I felt like the world was just crumbling around me, and I remember, like, speeding off because nothing happened to him. He got off of it scot-free, so he got to do all that damage,
But he
and,
wasn't baptized, right?
he got baptized to date me.
Oh,
So
that's right.
nothing
Okay, so
happened to
he
him,
was baptized,
and he knew that
newly
would happen.
baptized.
Huh?
So he's newly baptized
Newly
while dating
baptized.
you. This happens and he doesn't get in any trouble?
Nope. And so
Wow.
they disfellowshipped me right away. There
Okay.
was no chance for, like, I had worked so hard for all of that, and, like, I think me trying to prove to myself, like, I like men, right? I have to like men.
Yeah.
I will be intimate with this person. Didn't enjoy any of it, so got all that punishment for nothing. But I remember driving to the Coronado Bridge and, like, just wanting to jump, and it was so intense. The need, anyone listening to this can easily um relate to the feeling of being stripped of everything so harshly and losing everyone, and, like, where do you go, right? So um I had moved out. I got disfellowshipped, um or deleted, as they say now, so stupid. um I bounced around. I lived out of my car for a few weeks. Um, Moved in with some person I found on Craigslist. That was an awful time.
Can I
Uh,
ask what the reaction was of the people? I mean, your mom had been a pretty well, uh, that's an understatement, had been very, abusive in many ways and controlling and
mm.
saying, like, "You can't leave me," and things like that. You're getting disfellowshipped and shunned. Uh, how does she
So
what
I
was
will
the
say,
familial response to that?
since I haven't thought about this in so long, so before a couple months before, I think the guilt of being intimate was setting in so harshly that my mom's and I relationship had gone from okay to, like, I couldn't even stand hearing her voice.
Mm,
Like, I feel like everything growing up, leading up to that moment was like, I don't mean to be, like, sexually understanding. Like, I don't want to be in the situation. I felt I had a lot of resentment towards her. Um, like, thinking of it now, like, cool, like, you have a boyfriend, you have sex, not a big deal. But in that time, it's like you did the worst thing anyone could have
that's
ever
true.
done. I
But
feel like
we also don't have anything for you when you're struggling with pornography and we're telling everybody, or when you're apparently assaulted at a young age, we don't have anything for you, but now we have something for you because you've disappointed us
where's the cop out, like,
at
the
this
governing
level.
body or this elder did this, well, Jehovah will fix it in his time. Like, okay, so they get a cop out, but I get disfellowship right away.
Yeah.
When my sister was younger, she got, what's reproved 3 times before they decided to disfellowship her. In this congregation that I was in, they were so strict to the point where an elder would watch, and he, like, called me into the back room for wearing a short dress while I was going to the beach. Or I had a second ear piercing, like, Sister Talamantes, like, how do you think the other young girls are gonna react when you're the youngest pioneer and you're like a role model to them? What are they gonna think? Like, well, Sister Talamantes has a second ear piercing. or anything I ever did, I was so like I was spotlighted on every single little thing. And so in a way, you know, me doing this was it like you gold star child fucking falling down to the depths of
Yeah,
hell.
you were the pioneer. You were the one they had invested so much into or had high hopes for.
Kept in line. The whole
Right.
congregation was a counsel for me. Everyone felt the need to tell me how to live my life. Don't go to school. Don't do this. Be doing this. Don't hang out with them. Blah 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 blah. Um, I think I knew going back to before disfellowshipping. I think I knew what was coming because again, I had already lived with so much guilt. Like my personality was guilt. So my mom and I were just I couldn't be around her. I had moved out and was living out of my car for a bit, then got disfellowship. And then it was an easier transition already being out of the house. My mom kept trying to get me to come home, but it was under her rules. And I had to come back to Jehovah, but I couldn't stand her. I didn't want to be anywhere around her. Her voice was like fucking nails on a board. It was this person can really bring out the worst in me. And I think it was just a lot of resentment, a lot of just like, you know what? Fuck you, lady. Whatever.
Sure, there have been a lot of
Um,
abuse. Understood.
it was just so gaslighty and like you'd tell her like you'd remind her what she'd do is like, what do you want from me? I was doing the best that I could. I was doing the best that I could. Like, how are you so nice to everyone else, but then you come home and you're a certain way or whatever. Don't get me wrong, we had good times, obviously, like life goes on and but the
Well,
thing
that's
that
why
I
abuse is so confusing, right? Because it's the
yeah,
person who's warm and nurturing one second, who's
yeah,
beating the fire out of you and throwing you into a closet the next
yeah.
second. Like that's not, and that's what creates that dynamic. And sadly, also then what can keep us chasing those abusers because we're looking for the high of those good moments that we did have,
Yeah.
when the reality is that it always comes with the side of something awful.
And with her, she had like in that congregation that I was in at the end, like while I was living with them, um, it had such annoying and hard to work with brothers and sisters. And she'd force me into car groups with some of them that she knew would give me so much anxiety. And she like, agape love, we have to love them. You have to put up with it. You have to blah, blah, blah. You have to do this. I could never get away from any of these people. And eventually, well, let me get back to it'll lead up to that. Wait, oh man, there's just so much. Um, I had moved out, got disfellowshipped. I was only out 8 months, but I kept going back to Kingdom Hall at another congregation. I was set on coming back, and this time around, really doubling down and doing everything I could. The problem during that time is that I made such good friends during those 8 months that really showed up for me. I was already having really bad seizures at that time from panic attacks. My nerves were so shot that I had my first seizure in the Kingdom Hall and I started getting really bad anxiety during meetings and or talks or like knowing I had to kind of talk in the microphone. Like it was something I could never overcome. But coming to this congregation with such gossipy motherfuckers and like everyone knowing my business and all the expectations put on me, that 8-month break was really helpful. I wish I wouldn't have gone back, but at the time I just still like Jehovah is where I need to be. These friends, I love you guys. You've done everything in your power to get me to just not want to die. But I told him, like, I'm gonna go back. And after I go back, I can't talk to you anymore. I was very blunt about it. And they were very confused, but even then still supported me.
Isn't that something?
And it always stayed in my mind back then, like, why are they so supportive? But all the friends I had had within the religion, they wanted either they could cut you off really fast, or someone wants to fellowship and you learn how to cut them off. It was just cutting off people all the time. There wasn't really strong roots. To this day,
No attachment.
I can not see someone again for a long time um and be okay with it. Um and but it really messed me up. But I went back. I moved back in with my parents. The same day I moved back, my stepdad had a brain aneurysm. If it wasn't for me being there, I wouldn't have found him under the car and like getting it because my mom was taking a nap. So I would often be outside with my stepdad while he fixed the car, and he'd be teaching me stuff, and I was just sitting on the stairs like looking at my phone, and then he just yeah. So after that, it was just how to get back into the swing of things, helping out at home, um, trying to fix my relationship with my mom, um, trying to get back into Jehovah's good graces. How can I prove myself to like these elders in the congregation again? It was a whole revamp of my life and proving myself. Um, it was so much work.
It's so much work and it's so sad. It's a rebound. It's proving yourself to people who don't deserve it and to
And
people
people
who can't
who were
appreciate it.
so hypocrites.
Yeah,
People who had done worse than I'd done, but they walked around like they were on a fucking high horse.
sure.
Like,
Because they were doubling down because of the things that they had done. So they're trying to now earn, their keep, so to
yeah.
speak.
Yeah, it's funny how you become soldiers and keep everyone
Mhm.
else in line, but I came back with a lot of anxiety still. I was still experiencing had officially gotten a schizoaffective diagnosis. I was on medication for that. Um, I had quit my office job. I was having a lot of panic. It's the enclosure and being around people, and then meetings were getting harder for some reason. It was just a lot. So service was my being outside and you know, so my schedule became a burnout schedule. Wake up at 5, do early morning service. I got a job that I could um, just ride my bike down, go to work, and then come back, go to service, go hiking, and then for that job, I got assaulted by the manager. I just left. I didn't even do anything. I'm like, I'm leaving. I can't. Bye. I just was so used to sweeping things under the rug. Just you don't even have I don't have the tools to like go through grief, go through understanding. It just so many things had already happened like that. Move on. So then I got the opportunity to move to a foreign language congregation. At by this time, I've conquered my addiction. I'm no longer on medication. Um, I have a good group of friends. Um, my three buddies. Um, who the congregation didn't want me around because like what I'm some that just wants to sleep with my friends, but I'm never like it doesn't work that way. Um we were like a trio of spiritual like sunshine. We were always in service together, we were always hiking together. Like, they really helped me get into the lane that I wanted, because my end goal was pioneer and then go do service in another country. So when I got this opportunity, I went to the Hindi congregation, and there it was almost all sisters. So there was maybe like 30 people, and the majority of them were sisters. And here you got to do microphones, and you got to learn another language, and like everyone was so happy for me. They threw me a party, of going away party to Hindi, and it was a whole nother ball game there. Um, I'm just thinking the whole ass journey. Anyway, I proved myself. Um, the interesting thing is I was working full time. I was a pioneer. I was trying to make time for college, which everyone was against. So when I got to Hindi, all these sisters, the majority of them had help from their parents. They had easier, yeah, it was just a different, uh there was a huge difference. And when I got there, there was an intense spirit of competition. And so a lot of these girls made me feel very, very small. A lot of pioneer sisters, they talk in a way that, I don't know. Everyone said, like, there's this conversation that witnesses have an accent. I don't know if you've heard this, but like when they have a part on stage,
I mean,
or
there's definitely a way of speaking. Yes.
yeah,
Oh, yes.
like sisters could be younger than me, and talking as if, like, well, I had this experience, like very much like the infantilizing again. So at this point, I'm more confident in myself. I'm bubbly again. I'm learning who I am. I have my group of friends on the side. I'm more like open to having hobbies. I'm more of a liberal JW, in sense of like I've experienced life and I've seen shit. And all of these sisters have small, they haven't done anything in their lives. Their only goal in life is to get married someday and find someone out there. But it was definitely like these elders. I'm working a full-time job. I'm going to school. I'm doing all these things to try to get by. They're not happy that I'm going to school. And I become a pioneer again. Um, yeah, I already said that part. Sorry, everything's getting jumbled at this point. But
Oh, it's okay.
um, in this congregation, the elders were very judgmental. They had their favorites. There was a couple that would talk shit on everyone else, but as soon as they talk shit back, they're like, "Oh, poor us. Why doesn't anyone want to go to service with us?" I was always the one. Remember, my mom forced me to get to the patience level of dealing with the most ridiculously annoying and most narcissistic people that just like to talk about themselves and cannot stop talking. So I'm the one out there Wednesdays changing my jobs to fit my service schedule. I am not getting any help from anyone else. I end up getting a new car so I can, drive people around. Um, Dealing with their snarky comments, telling me like I'm wasting my time going to school. These girls making fun of like either my art, or they make fun of like me trying to start my own landscape business, which actually did well. Interestingly enough, I made some money, and that catapulted my career. Um, just the most judgmental people I have ever met. So particular. Um, I had gone on trips. I went to a convention in Germany with this sister, and I'm like, "How are you this particular? I've been so spoiled your whole life that you need things to go exactly like I'm never fucking doing that again." Um, at some point, it started to really become too much, but at what ended up exploding everything into pieces that you couldn't get back together, the elders decided to take the pioneering away from me because I was 80 hours short. And
What was I don't remember what the goal would have been then. Was it still 1,000 hours?
before I think it was 80 hours, but for the year I was 80 hours short.
Right.
And
So
I
you
had
were 80
gone
hours
through
short of the annual goal.
yeah, I had gone through really bad depressive state. These are the same hours that took away the pioneering from another sister because her um I think her dad was sick. Something was going on that she could have really used that compassion. These are elders that would, as soon as I'd walk through the door, like, Sister Talman, you look really sad. Have you been crying? Sister Talamantes, you look really tired. Like, bitch, I just didn't put makeup on and I've been working all day and I was in service in the morning and I didn't even want to be here because you've made this energy so like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I spent 3 years there and you've made it so like everyone's just I don't want to be there anymore, right? It's a smaller group and still my anxiety is high whenever I come in through these doors because you're thinking what can I tell this person to make myself feel better probably. Like these girls would there was two sisters. I think they're gay. It's real funny because they were always together. They would just for service, they'd pick me up, they'd giggle the whole time. I'm just third wheeling, and then they'd drop me off without any communication, just like speed off. I'm like, okay, fun. Um, thanks. And then the next week they're all about talking. So it was always so hot and cold with people. So once you think you're creating a relationship, then they just pull back. So it cemented more of my ability to just cut people off and not create good relationships. Because I'm just used to just everyone just being hot and cold all the time. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna mirror your energy. I'm not gonna put any effort if there's no effort back. And I live with that rule to this day. But um the day they decided to take my pioneering away, I was battling a really bad bout of depression. They did it right before service. So I was I had plans. I was going to do a 12-hour day. Um all of this. They're like, "We decided to take your service away or your pioneering away because we think you're doing too much." And that really struck a nerve with me because up to then we were having all these conventions and broadcastings of Brother Jackson saying, "Can you do more?
Mhm.
Can you be a pioneer? Youth, what can you be doing with your time? Can you limit hours at work? Can you just do more?" And here I am doing the most that I could. I told these elders so much in my life that they ended up using that against me because I'm like, "Hey, I just switched jobs to make it easier for myself to complete my hours. Hey, I just gave up this really great job so I could be more available on during the week when you guys are requesting more people. I stopped going to school so I can be more present." And they took that as she's burnt out and she's short 80 hours. She can't do it. We're not going to give her a chance. Taking that away from me, it had become my identity and my only way to prove myself to Jehovah that I was willing to go. I wanted to go to SKE. I didn't want to get married. I wanted to do all these things for Jehovah. I wanted to be Jephthah's daughter of I will
Mm.
sacrifice my life to this
Yeah.
to this need, knowing now that she was actually literally sacrificed because
Yeah, Jephthah's daughter
Jehovah
was
doesn't
killed.
require blood sacrifices, yet all of them are fucking blood sacrifices. Like, damn, this guy he's thirsty for blood. But at the time, that was the most impactful and relatable story to me. And I'm like, I will go to the ends of the earth to like just devote my life to him. So them taking it away from me was the beginning of my spiral. And from then on, all my decisions were so self-sabotaging. I was in the extreme dissociation. I was severely depressed. It's like they ripped my heart out and expected me to be okay. And here's everyone telling me, like, it's fine. Like, why do you need pioneering? You can still go to service. And for me, I'm the type of person that needs something in writing to be committed, because it's like I need something like an outside push, like I don't know how to explain it, but to me, it's like, well, without the pioneering, like, who am I? What can I do?
Sure. Need kind of
They
that
tell me
external
to do
push.
more. Every broadcasting is do more. What more do you want from me? I am literally doing everything you're saying to do. Change jobs, change your schedule, accommodate, it, fucking everything.
You're like,
And
I'm people pleasing to the nth degree, and it's
it's just
still
like
not enough.
I am the one I'm the one going to service with the people
Yes.
that no one else wants to be around.
Yeah.
Like, these people are just energy vampires. And I was putting up with that because I'm like, I'm, love agape love or whatever. Like, I'm
I
in
hate that term
there.
so much. I don't know if for anyone on Facebook, I don't know if you've been inundated with JW pages like I am, but it's just these AI generated paradise pictures and such, or pictures of some witness couple, and everything under it, every comment, hundreds, are just agape brothers, agape sisters. It's like
It's all
no
for
one
show.
talks like that.
It's all
That's
for
back.
show.
Of course, it's back, but it's back to your Joe's Witnesses have an accent. They just
Yeah.
have a manner of
Yes.
speaking that is abnormal. And
It's robotic.
it is
It's
robotic.
not
Yeah.
natural.
No, it's not. It's
And
sing-songy in ways. It's very weird. It's
I
very weird.
realized this when I heard I don't think the brother knew I was around, but he was cussing to his wife. And I'm like, you guys don't speak like this. This is only,
Sure.
and to me, like, I was trained to, like, talk spiritual. I, like, try to always find a way to talk about Jehovah. And I was trying to come through with a genuine heart and really doing my best. But um I was really trying, because I had just finished pioneer school, and then after they took the pioneer away, and they touch on the, you have to love, you can be the shittiest person and you still have to love that person.
Mhm.
And when they took my pioneering away, I spiraled, made all the bad decisions. I didn't know what to do. It, like you said, like, who are you today? At that time, that was who I was. Like,
Yeah, they
my
took
job
away
is
your
to serve
identity and you were
Jehovah.
not grounded anymore.
I loved outdoors and I loved all this, but my core identity, I felt, was like, I'm here to sacrifice my life to Jehovah. That's the only way I can show him that I'm so repentful for all of my life's mistakes. All of it. And it's the only way my family will be proud of me. It's the only way the congregation will be proud of me. It's the only way I will ever get anyone to be proud of me. To this day, I struggle with not hearing, like, you're not gonna hear that, but and sometimes someone will be like, "Hey, proud of you, Sam." Like, oh, don't I. It's still a weird need, but I don't want to hear it because I don't want that to be what drives me. I want to be proud of myself. I want to be the one being like, "Yeah, I passed that test. Fuck yeah, I remembered that. Fuck yeah, I was present." Like, little things around that are a daily struggle, and I'm able to do them. If I have a conversation with someone and I didn't stutter, or I didn't zone out, or I didn't, like, make a complete fool of myself, proud of me. Did it. Such stupid little things, because I used to hold myself to such an intense, unattainable standard while everyone gaslit you saying, "You don't have to do that." But yes, you do. Which one is it?
That's what the
Because if
publication
I'm
said.
not,
Yeah.
I'm marked, And if I don't try, I'm marked and I'm considered not, because I hear how you talk about other people who aren't trying.
Well, and that's why it's hard, right, to accept a compliment. Well, it's hard for a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses too, because they don't feel good about themselves internally. So it feels like imposter syndrome to an extent. But when your whole life you've also been chasing external validation as the only reason for your existence and your identity, then when somebody does give you a genuine one, it may be a nice compliment, but it's still, now it's almost like, I don't want to hear it from you. I only need to hear it from me because I've needed to hear it from me for so long and so badly. So I understand that it's funny, the pendulum, when it swings, it never stops immediately in the middle balanced position. It goes from one extreme to the other, and it's hard to get that to settle in. But I am glad that you're at least looking for your own validation now and not, just that from other people.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing to be able to aspire to.
Yeah.
So how did you get then? So how do we go from how old were you when this was taken away from you?
Um, 20 2019, I think.
Oh, okay. So about 5 years ago.
Yeah. 26,
Okay.
about.
So 5 years ago, you care immensely and intensely about what everybody else says and thinks. And now you actually do care about what you say and
Not
think.
yet, not yet.
Well,
At
you're working on that. You were
first,
just
but everything that I would love to one day run into those elders and tell them, like, "Thank you. What you did was the, um,
catalysts.
the catalyst for my waking up," kind of. Because
Right.
with that, I started seeing I started remembering so many unfair things and so many, like, that doesn't make sense. It was a little doubts here and there, and it grew and it started growing. At this point in my life, I was like, if I'm not a pioneer, what am I? Might as well just get married to the first guy that comes around. That is exactly what happened.
If you're feeling stuck in your life after cult involvement and can't find the life you want, leaving a cult is a new beginning on a path to healing, not some magical end itself that is healing. Relief from the immediate pain feels good at first, but that's not necessarily true happiness. The feelings of social awkwardness and isolation, lack of self worth, perfectionism, patterns of being attracted to emotionally unavailable people, not even knowing who you are yourself. All of these things and more are lingering effects of that environment. Being in a cult isn't just following a doctrine, but it's following a culture, a way of life, a way of being that doesn't just go away because you stopped attending meetings. If you want to shortcut the path to healing instead of trying to figure it out on your own, maybe even work with me professionally in my cult recovery coaching practice, you can find opportunities to do that and also for other cool resources at my website, exjwhelp.com. That's exjwhelp.com. Mhm.
I got invited to a friend's wedding in Northern California, where I'm at now. And there I met one of the groomsmen, and all his friends warned me, "He has an alcohol problem. He's not ready to date. Don't." And I'm like, "Fuck it."
Well, your dad had the alcohol problem.
And I had previous relationships that were abusive and
Right,
alcoholic, right?
right.
Um, so to me, like,
Even your
thing
stepdad, who had was a good guy to you in a lot of ways, had
yeah,
come from that background too. So it's just
and I
another.
learned that there's always potential. I'm like, potential in people. I was always that kind heart, like, this person has potential. That's how you go and preach, right?
Mhm.
People with good hearts have potential. That's how that's how
Well, but also
you
and
fucking
also we as
shouldn't get
humans but also we as humans repeat patterns, and we're going alcoholism, 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 alcoholism as we're going
Yeah,
down this path, right?
yeah. And, we start talking. Within 2 weeks, he's saying, "I love you." And I kinda took it like, "Ah, I don't fucking love you." He's like, "You feel it, you feel it." I'm like, "Alright, sure, dude, love you." And so after that, like, he wanted to get married within 2 months. And, I wanted to get out of the house so bad. I was at this point, I was my friends were concerned. They're like, "What the fuck? This isn't normal." I was telling my mom, like, "If I don't get out of this house or this town now, like, I don't know what will like, it felt like this desperation to take my skin off. It wasn't even about him. I just needed to get I was so humiliated. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I had already stopped going to college. I was at a job I wasn't enjoying because of pioneering. Like, I felt like I had made all these decisions to serve Jehovah, and, like, I'm like, "Jehovah, what did I do?" I conquered my addiction. I conquered, the problem at hours. I conquered, like, I stopped going to college, but it like, thank you, was enough to get me into these better jobs. Like, I thought I was doing everything. I'm like, "Why are you doing this to me? What did I do?" And I'm like, in the witness world, like, if a sister, like, what am I without a husband if I'm not a pioneer? Like, so I applied to a job. Within a week, I got, like, come up here in a interview. I loaded up my car with all my stuff. I made a bed out of it, and I have a friend drove up with me, got the job, and, um oh, I had come visit him before. We ended up having sex. We got reproved. I moved up, um, because at this point, I'm like, "Fuck everything, like, what's the point of anything," right? Um, he showed red flags right away, obviously. Like, he got into heavy, drinking. There was a time where we went to a wedding and we got really drunk, and I had a really bad seizure, and I feel terrible about that to this day. Um, and there was so many nights he wouldn't come home. Um, there was nights where I think he had resentment towards me because it's like, "Well, you made me get," because we ended up getting disfellowshipped, even though we had gotten married eventually. Because my parents, like, "You can't visit unless you're married." So we went and got married at the courthouse, right? And, he neglected me emotionally. We were together a year, 6 months out of that, we were sleeping in um, like, separate beds. Um, he forced himself on me, and when I cried to my mom about that, she's like, "That's how marriages go the first year, and you're the wife, so it's your wifely duties." That was what sparked, like, the rabbit hole of the elders don't care, and the elders are willing to bring him back after he did that to me, after I've already, like, experienced him, like, breaking a car window and then coming in and then wiping that blood on my face, or, like, weird shit. This dude was just going through some crazy shit, and I still married him. And then obviously I'm ranting, but it like, I think my brain just, like, try to but,
Oh, it sounds like it was a lot in a
it
short
was a
period
lot.
of time.
It was a lot. I ended up helping him buy a truck to try and see if that'll would salvage our relationship. I really wanted to try to make it work. He completely shut me out. Um, And so when he ended up doing that to me, and then my mom saying those things, I went down the rabbit hole of like of rape and abuse within the organization, because there had been other instances of shit like that, like husbands in the organization being terrible. And it just brought me to CSA cases. It opened, all of my doubts were validated. It was too much that one night I strung a rope up and I tried to hang myself. And I hung for a good 10 seconds and the rope snapped. And I fell straight on my tailbone. And I had cats and they kind of came over me and like just laid on me. And I remember being like, fuck this, I'm leaving. And so at that point I didn't care about anything anymore. Didn't care about just anything. It was like I was zombie. I started listening to some different YouTube channels, like the John Cedars channel, and then I came upon a documentary. I don't know what it was that I found you on, and you mentioned you do coaching, and I quickly like sent one of those fill outs, and we started our sessions, and then from there it was you helping me organize my thoughts, because at this point I was like, do I pretend not to know anything so I don't lose my family? I don't have anyone up here. I can't leave this man. Like where do I go? The only people I care about of losing is my niece and nephew. They are the only fucking people in my life worthwhile. And I was willing to stick around to not lose them. My sister could go fuck off. Like my mom could go, like everyone else can go just disappear. I just did not want to lose my niece and nephew. And you really put into perspective of like, I remember you saying if you really say that you love them and they love you, they will find their way to you without you even doing anything. And that was the case for my nephew. He found his way back to me. We never talk about religion. He knows I'm there for him. He knows anything that he needs help with or support. He left the religion on his own. And without me doing anything, they thought that I had something. I'm like, that was
they'll
not,
always blame you.
Yeah.
It's always got to be somebody's fault.
but you really walked me through the steps of like step by step. So I was able to leave. I found my own place. I still had my own job, had my own money, went through the divorce process, blocked everybody's numbers, focused on myself. And yeah, like I how do I explain? Like, I think if it wasn't for that resource, I would not be here today. So the importance of just having someone to be able to help give you the tools to understand that your whole life was a fucking lie. You spent your whole childhood and adulthood striving for something that didn't exist, listening to men with power who are nothing without it. Who are you without the organization? You are simple men. You hold nothing. So you give power to people who aren't educated in any way to try to tell you what to do with your life. You should be in jail for the things you have stripped us of, for things that are so natural, for things that are not an issue, but you use that to control us. and shame us and cause us so much pain. And so lost my family, lost all my friends. I can't, I don't know what my sister or them tell my niece. I mean, they even got, I think, my brother-in-law, who I was close to turn on me. Like, who cares? Whatever. I have it. The price was worth my freedom.
Which means that you are worth the price, right? And that ultimately is the thing. We can lose everybody else, but trying to not lose ourselves. And I'm glad that you did reach out for help. And I'm glad that you are still here and that you are working toward becoming Sam and
I'm
and
still trying
not
to.
that version that they tried to create, you know?
If you weren't the cookie cutter Christian woman,
Sure.
you were called out and you were not. Yeah, I mean, now, honestly, I still struggle to know who I am. I spend a lot of weeks being pretty dissociated and to be like, oh, it's been 4 months. Like, what's gone on? I think, like, with the new change of, like, you can talk to your family members again if they're out. Something happened that they sent out, but um my parents tried reaching out and I shut that down super fast because it's like I realized even if you're not in the religion, you're not people that I want to give my peace to because you haven't done your own healing.
Yep.
And you'll always, if I can get in their shoes, like I would be doing the same thing. Like, how can I get them to come back? Article. You don't even know how to use your own brain to talk to your daughter. Because I know if you say, "How are you doing?" I know that will lead to, "Look at this article, I was thinking about you." After I put those boundaries, like, "Your cousin's giving a talk, they want you to join." Like, what of me saying so obviously, "I don't want anything to do with your cult." I am not ashamed and guilty anymore. You are literally living in a bubble. I don't show up because I'm ashamed or guilty. That's what my mom thinks, that I won't go around. I didn't go to my nephew's graduation because, oh, Sam has tattoos and she's ashamed of showing them. Bitch, I have them all over my fucking Instagram. I get them and I wear them with pride because it was something that I was shamed for liking. And I love them. And I do them now. And now I have a profession where I'm not like I'm a woman that can speak up and say what I'm thinking and be able to say, "No, I don't like that." Or not have to associate with anyone I don't want to. If I find you annoying as shit, I don't have to be in your space. I'm no longer like longing to like get the attention of people and get their like respect or their acknowledgement or the like, please like me. I could give two shits. Like, wow, I am at peace with just being in my own space. It could be pretty isolating because now I don't really need that. So I could probably live alone and be fine. But I have my beautiful partner who has taught me a lot. We've had our ups and downs. It's hard for someone that doesn't have that background to understand. Um, but I couldn't have ended up with someone as logical as he is. Yes, like I said, there's a lot of like heart set aren't understood because I burnt myself out for so many years that now I'm like, I just want to chill.
Of
I want to go to
course.
my job. I love having my job be the core of my life and be able to grow in that and not just be someone's wife or a pioneer. I can make something of myself. And it's okay for me to be like, look at my career that I've worked so hard for. I don't need to be like, "Oh, like, don't look at me, I'm a simple pioneer and meek and blah, 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 blah." I can do all the things that I want that they told me a Christian sister can't do, right? I can go dirt biking, I can go cut down trees, I can make them look pretty, I can do all the things that they're like, "That's not very good for a little like, a young lady," right? I can go do that, and it's great, and I have my 2 dogs, and I have my stinky cat. I live in the forest. They can't take that away from me.
No, and you don't need to give it to them, right? It's not there for their judgment. It's not there. You're not around them because of some sort of shame. You're around there because you actually not around them because you actually love yourself and because you are proud of who you are and the things that you do. And obviously, we're all, growth is growth, and we'll all be growing throughout our lives. Healing isn't a linear path either, and there's a lot there. But you should be very proud of who you are, and you don't need to put that before people who would do nothing but try to dull that shine.
I will
Why?
say, like, to those elders too, like, "Thank you, you saved me
Yeah,
from moving to New York to try to serve in Bethel. You kind of saved me from in a way like, the pandemic saved me from leaving to India because a week before I was supposed to leave, the airport shut down, and I would have been stuck in India and not having a great time. Um, I am just grateful that I can choose how to spend my I remember the first Saturday of not going to service or doing anything spiritual. It's like, I can do anything? And it's great because I don't have hallucinations anymore. My anxiety has gone all the way down. I no longer have insomnia. I, um, don't have seizures anymore unless I'm, like, I've drank a lot, but I don't drink anymore. We both took on a sober lifestyle. We'll, like, drink occasionally, you know, if, you know, if we even want to. Um, like, I live a very that's the thing, like, I live a very peaceful life that I've always wanted, and, yeah, I think all of it at the end of the day, like, even if it was hard to come to terms with the loss of so many years and, like, how cookie cutter I was growing up and how much of that I spent chasing after validation, um, and burnout and just I think I'm very thankful that I'm still young enough to experience new things, and it's nice. That helped calm my thoughts on, like, "Oh my god, like, 27 years of my life." That's a lot.
Did you say you're 31, 32?
31, yeah.
31, yeah. I left when I was 38, so
Still young enough.
and people leave in their 60s. I mean, look, I know there's a lot of people who are like, you shouldn't try to wake an older person up. It's going to be hard for them. And I'm sure it is. But I've talked to a lot of older folks who woke up, talked to a gentleman who woke up in his 80s. And you know what? Most people, if given the chance, would rather live one day a free man than an entire life in prison. And so to at least have the chance to see. And also, it's not up to us to do it anyway. Like I said, they'll usually come to you. You don't have to do anything. They'll find their way to you.
Oh, yeah, I
They'll
mean,
figure it out
friends,
if
I
they're
always
going to.
told I was telling Sean, like, if only these specific friends came back to me, everything, like, it would be perfect.
Mhm.
The very specific friends that I actually did have close connections to and became my family, those are the people that came back to me. And now they're back in my life. And we have the perfect relationship of like we can go weeks or whatever without talking, but when we meet up, it's like nothing has changed. And everything I could have asked for, like slowly trickled back into my life. And so it's just a waiting game, honestly. And I think, yeah, I think if more people knew that it's going to be hard at the beginning, but things get better. It takes a bit. I feel like I still don't know who I am, but that's the fun process of I'll figure it out. I'll figure out who I am. I'm still having hard time having conversations with people. What the fuck do I talk about? I want to be here, but I have to. But
Well,
I'll figure it out slowly.
again, that's all, it's part of doing the work, right? And healing is a journey, it's a path, it's not an event, it takes time. There's a lot of things to undo, there's a lot of things to learn. It's not a simple process. I wish there was one magic thing that everyone could learn. I mean, a lot of it really comes down to self-love, but there's so many things in the way coming from where we've come from, and we really do need to. I mean, a lot of the issues and the things that we walked away from came. A lot of the negativity came from relationships that we were in, which is why it often does require a relationship with someone that you're healing with, who has done some work and has some things to share, because it was in relationship that we all got hurt. And so it kind of takes another relationship as we're leaving, and other relationships that we build to find ourselves too. But it takes time, and it's not, you can't rush it. But you left and have been doing the work, and I think there's I hope as you watch this back, uh I think that you will learn more about who you are as you watch this back later, or listen to it, or however you consume it. Because I think there's a lot of Sam in all of this to be proud of and to integrate and adopt. It's just that we've been taught to push ourselves away just like we push everybody else away, growing up in that environment. But I mean, you said it. A lot of things that you missed, or a lot of things that you want, have trickled back to you, or you have found things, and that's like you said, you got freedom out of this. It's a big price to pay, but
And it's
ultimately,
something
it's
that's
kind of a
very
small price because it wasn't real anyway.
true, and it's something that I protect at all cost, is that peace, because I gave so much up for it. And sometimes it's still hard to put boundaries, but a pet peeve of mine is like people not seeing the witnesses as a cult, because they seem so charming and friendly, and they promise you all these things, when I feel it's such a dangerous organization, an extreme organization. And I feel like the toxicity that brews under all that fake charm, I just wish, like, if people just looked into all of it, they would just a little bit to understand, like, you don't have to put up with any of that. You can put boundaries. If you choose to stay in, put some boundaries. Don't leave your kids with random people just because they're witnesses. Um, but yeah, I'm fiercely protective of my peace. And I don't care what you offer me. I don't care what you promise. It's like I yeah, I don't
But
want to go through all of that again. Still working on it, but I'm
sure.
gonna keep fighting it, yeah.
Well,
Um,
I think that's kind of the way this should end. You're talking about how protective you are of that peace, because I think that if people would leave and get some distance, they could start to feel that peace, right? Especially if they're doing the work around it. And then why would you want to go back to these people who have done nothing but take your peace? And what would it give you? again, that's why you're not having your family in your life at this point, because they're just going to take your peace. They never gave you peace from the beginning. They stole any chance of you having peace from the beginning, and now they would just do the same. The people don't often change that much, and it's a shame, but it's a big part of the reality. You have done the change for yourself, and you should be proud of that.
I do feel like the people who stay are much about the appearance and the understanding that of the power that they hold. And the people who end up leaving are those who are genuinely trying and just couldn't get into the power play and the um like the need to be a like, well, I'm look at me, like I'm yeah, because in my family, on my stepdad's side, they're all pioneers or Bethelites, elders, what have you, all of that. So they're a well-known family in the area, and I love to think about like it's just funny to me if my mom using it as like my daughter, and people being like, one day she'll come back, and me being like, hell no, keep dreaming, never coming back.
If you'd like some extra content, if you'd like to learn more about our guests today, maybe even have an opportunity to connect further with them, you can do so by joining the Back Room tier at patreon.com/shunned.